Our first panelist is Graham Goddard. He formed in 2015 and has been working towards impacting the art market by empowering artists, art galleries, and art collectors with blockchain technology. Goddard's vision for all public art, a robust platform that is designed to provide solutions for all artists to connect, trade, and thrive within the art market. Ryan's founder and CEO of ICO Impact Group. As an advisor and investor in many companies, he is focused on blockchain and cryptocurrency-funded startups, prioritizing with a clear social benefit. Ryan is the CEO and founder of CauseCast, a corporate volunteering and giving portal. He's an internet entrepreneur and who co-founded opt-in email pioneer Net Creations and was one of the very first ethical internet marketers, having bootstrapped Bedroom into a $500 million company. He's currently advising, he's as diverse as Tesla, Lottery.com, Guardian, Stellar, VinChain, and LoyalCoin. Please welcome Mark Jeffrey, is a serial entrepreneur and author published by HarperCollins. Most Guardian Circle and the Guardian Token for Global Decentralized Emergency Response. He was the winner of the Coin Launch Festival and a partner in the X Prize Foundation. He's a pioneer of the blockchain technology, having published Bitcoin Simply back in 2013, like the dark of crypto. The case for Bitcoin in 2016 has included The Palace, 0 Degrees, This Week In. He was a founding member, the founding CTO of Mahalo, Inside.com. Jeffrey. Mac McGary leads Sweetbridge Alliance. He was formerly the chief revenue officer, growing the firm into one of the world's largest SaaS companies, SaaS-based supply chain visibility and trade. In 2015, he led the successful 675 position of his company to Infor and has been solutions delivery leader in several successful supply chain enterprises. Leveraging his background, he is building an alliance of blockchain projects and needs to deliver a fairer, faster value exchange to power. Please welcome Mac McGary. Not least is Louis O'Connor. He's the managing director of Agro Land Investments in Panama. He is Irish, Panama, works in agriculture, and he's laying block all of that. Please welcome Louis O'Connor. Well, we're going to have a great discussion, and I appreciate you all. I'm so little, I'm going to stay, right? Otherwise, I will get lost behind the furniture. Let me just pull up a couple of notes. But it is, this is just a great group. I want to, Mac, if you don't mind.
Please.
Often about future prediction. How to use technology, business models, or think differently about future business conditions. What is your prediction regarding social impact chain?
Good question. Been in the supply chain some 30 years, and to make investments and to build new technology, you have to think differently and predict what's going to happen, either create it so that future becomes reality. And our prediction, consumers like the men and women in this room and businesses will own our business level if it's a totally transparent supply chain and it meets authentic supply chain. So that is, we no longer want to buy seafood, we want to eat milk products that are laced with poisonous chemicals, and we're in tiers deep in the supply chain, and we won't, we'll hold some first tier suppliers are doing. I don't know what happens the second or third tier. We'll say, the new demographic, the new psychographic will say, I want an authentic supply chain that's totally ethical. And therefore, we believe we invest in technologies that we think enable end-tier deep, where the supply chain starts at the dirt, the ocean, the forest, all the way through the prediction.
Well, that's inspiring. I picture some Ugandan coffee farmers that I visited with and will benefit from that vision. I hope it's realized. Ryan, let me go to specific examples of the companies that are using crypto for good.
Oh, it's interesting. One of the kind of side effects of having zero-cost transactions is can start to serve at the bottom of the pyramid profitably. And so we're working with at ICO Impact Group that enroll that provides mentorship opportunities from inside corporations for people, the skills that it takes to basically get that person's job or work for that person. It's quite applicable across the entire world. So through a project, 2 rural areas in Africa, as long as you have a cell phone, you can start to participate in this. We're able to do charitable raffles, but have a global footprint, and we're able to actually bring that to Africa.
Examples. Graham, let me ask you, the art world is a field that can be impacted by blockchain, right? What are some examples of the ways blockchain can the art world?
Sure, absolutely. The art world has been an issue for generations. Fortunately, blockchain, a type of technology that increases transparency. So what we're going to see for art galleries, art enthusiasts, art collectors, a lot of artists being empowered to be able to verify themselves, their art. The art world is really being impacted. It's a beautiful space. We have a world that are truly becoming entrepreneurial, which is so. My company, All Public Art, we're that initiative, and the decentralization of blockchain has also basically minimized counterfeit art and fraud and entrepreneurial artists. So there's quite a bit. Yeah.
It really is artists from fraud, right? It's a huge. You've got a really truly unique perspective on this. I picture you out in the fields and the farms.
I'm taking a break.
This makes no sense. Tell us what you know about using blockchain for agriculture.
Okay, a break from the farm today. So, yeah, I'll be very. As you mentioned, we're creating a community in the Highlands, which is sort of it's already a retirement destination, and there's also a growing sort of Panama blockchain embassy with Bitcoin ATMs. There's expats that are probably 6 or 8 or maybe 10 startups, and it's a small. Just met some people like Ira Miller's down there, and chain and agriculture. I suppose not what blockchain might do for social good, but how they both can certification. We'll have our own energy, so power supply. Vision maybe. Where we are in the Highlands of Cherokee, there's a lot of insurance and stuff, so we'd envision it maybe in the future, the whole community.
So it's an interesting perspective, and thanks for bringing that. Now, Mark.
I can hear a little bit, but I'm assuming most people are having a hard time. I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? I'm so sorry.
Let's rewind it.
It's pretty scary when the biggest round of applause from the mics. Before was really, really good. The rest will be boring. Mark, why are we talking about blockchain for good? We don't think about databases for good and other technology.
I think it's because in the past had something, truth was not mathematically provable. The block hides that. Other than that, in the past we've had to rely on humans. Wherever there are humans doing anything, there are inefficiencies that inevitably creep. There's really been no way to fix that other than to bring new humans in who become inefficient. And now the machines can take over, at least a portion of this. This is voting. So we can now have perfect voting, whether there's absolute and whether it's authentic or not. And there's a lot of things like this. So I think is bringing out the do-gooders in a way that we've not seen before, unlike the dot-com phenomenon, which was largely a US thing, zeitgeist.
Interesting take. I appreciate that. Mark, you've started a new company called Guardian Circle, called Guardium.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what that is.
Centralized emergency response. So think universal 911. Billion people on Earth have no 911. 1 billion of us, pretty antiquated, not very good. One example of about 20 I could give you, have no idea where you are. Uber can find you more easily than not. Blow the whole thing up. What would you build today if you were starting from scratch? The world should work is no matter where you are on the planet, whenever you're in trouble, button sends your alert up to the cloud. Cloud looks down, sees what people and pushes all those people to you. So we're in the flash mob of help business. Hopefully you don't have to pay them. And then there are people who are paid, so support, private security, that kind of thing. And that may be, for the emergency that can run you down the mountain. So there's a lot of different variation on what that can be.
So, back, What is the central theme behind Sweetbridge and its products, investments around social impact?
We'll look at the team, and we look for the team that has a passionate desire for the outcome. And that outcome is to deliver social impact, not personal wealth. Most projects right away. And then we look at areas of financial mechanisms, an ability to collect truth at different moments in the supply chain. If you want a totally transparent supply chain, you validate that those transactions are true, and then you update, and then you get have deep business experience in that problem. They may not be blockchain expert. And then the other thing is that whether they have it instinctively or they bring token economics, they have to have a token design that's going to reinforce the costs of the blockchain, not just a secure database that can provide but you can issue a cryptocurrency that can reward the good actors and the good outcomes. It could be as simple in the Philippines as rewarding truck drivers to uptake. But the token economics we find rarefied people who really understand how to apply it, and much of that's experimental, but we do be a dramatic part of the outcome ahead of us.
Excellent. Let me turn my microphone back on. Happier if they don't. No, okay. Graham, can you tell us how visual arts and collectors can be empowered? Because we talked a little bit more about the artists before. How do the collectors benefit from this?
Blockchain technology and its power currency is something that art collectors need because it's, this technology is immutable. So when transactions come in and out of the is just a really safe place to be able to artists. Artists, when we're talking about social good, artists support themselves, and there are a lot of patrons involved in the community. However, they've given power away to art galleries. They've given power away to one of the beautiful things that we're seeing with blockchain is the community is the conversation about control and power and who has it. Are now more empowered because we art collectors and not the art organizations and auction houses. Art collectors being able to identify the artists that they love, and we're seeing technology platforms all over the world popping up with technology. And any company that is get a safe and secure environment for these transactions, which is really, really empowering. When you talk about social good, I mean, empowering artists is one of the...
Excellent. Louis, I want to go to you next. What is Panama at that intersection of agriculture and blockchain?
Very sort of early stages of the project itself. Any of the projects we had done, didn't involve blockchain or anything like that. Because of that, the growing community in Panama, we recently had the first, I guess, blockchain. It was held in the old canal zone, and it was sort of fascinating, which sort of got a good laugh at the beginning, but has evolved. When Panama took control of the canal 18 years ago, the operation and this is for the Panamanian people. The Panamanians have seen any money or any benefit, So would technically pay each Panamanian chain. So since then, there's a hashtag going around now, Panama Canal blockchain. Days there, but the excitement and the passion is there.
Very good, very good. What role does social impact company? Does playing your social impact cred CEO?
Yeah, it really can, and I'm kind of more of the non-ICO world, of course, with what we do. We help companies become better citizens from a social standpoint. I always like to give a capitalist argument around this. We all know that doing good is good, but why would a company really want to do it? And it turns out there's some really employees expect it. So you've got you get improved employee recruitment for doing it. I mean, and ultimately it's becoming for corporations. And I think ICOs, in particular blockchain-focused companies, one thing to keep in mind is, again, as I mentioned earlier, being able to do business with the bottom of the pyramid or the next you want to call those folks there because your service can you really are building a market that doesn't necessarily ICOs in particular, since they're raising money. It turns out there's a whole other pot for raising money. It's through family offices, foundations. Traditionally, the problem has been that well-managed, kind of place to them that they were making impact in a way that they needed to hear. Actually make that connection, and so that whole other pot of money, and this is money they need to spend, it's called impact. Traditionally, they were giving it just to nonprofits. They're now able to give it if you're a company as well, whole other pot of money.
That is a key message, that money, right? Well, Mac, whether we look at 5 years, 50 years, 5,000 years, we can find movements that have happened all along the way. How does it change the potential of a social movement?
I mean, a different time in history where there's accelerated change for social good. And 10 factors or so, let me highlight a few that are bringing this convergence. One is access to capital. The idea that you have an open source store money should not be under one person's control. We believe those should be information. And the ICO has enabled a lot of companies to make money immediately. They tokenize their business and they're able to create open source access to capital. Also importantly, I think that ambitions have failed. But if we look at the gates for the right job, not based on volunteer network, and then be accountable for how we spend the money with overhead, but really look at here's how many million, move to a metrics-based social agenda. I think through the blockchain, we're going to create token economics where we can model something different than we've had before, where the rich get richer and you have to be accredited. We're believing that there is this decentralized democratization that should be different when it comes to social impact, about what products they eat, where do they come from, where their children, to implement those technologies of transparency. So with blockchain, we think technology to drive change.
Thank you, thank you. You've incorporated the blockchain. Couldn't you have done it without blockchain? What is so essential?
So there's some things we could have done without blockchain, but they would not be good. And there are three things in particular that there's just no way to do them. We think that giving will be a very big behavior in our universe. Act of your dollar, because if you buy Guardium and send it to someone, it's not gone through a government, a bank, or an organization, or inappropriately. So things like Red Cross in Haiti can't happen. You can that kind of extreme accountability only possible with a blockchain. Blockchain, what's important about that is they are immutable. So, faking out emergencies. Nobody can go and mess with the evidence of what happened. The third thing is we provide something called a record of all the stuff you don't want anyone to know about unless you're in trouble. So you hid the key in your front yard, combination to your safe, and only your designated recipients have the other key. It's a two-key system. If that were stored in a centralized database as opposed to a blockchain, then it would be vulnerable. Recently, among lots of others, have exposed how centralized kind of sensitive information that we want people to be able to store there confidently and do that except on a blockchain.
Excellent. Great insights. I really appreciate it because that's important for us to understand the value of blockchain in the I want to get your perspective coming from, being able to look through the Panamanian lens here for us. For blockchain technologies, crypto to really go mainstream, what are the hurdles here to make that happen, do you think?
It's a very unique sort of a country in the sense that for most of that, a little over 100 years old, most of that first 100 years, expertise from here and workers from Trinidad and Jamaica. Panama didn't really benefit so much, like economically. Since they've gotten the canal, the last sort of 18 years, it's in a technical perspective. So, but I think phones have digital TV. So technology itself is such in a way, So I think that's, for further education. But I think it is. I mean, my Uber driver took me to the airport in Panama.
So maybe the answer is, Devin, you missed it. It already happened. Patrons and donors have supported struggling artists. Is blockchain going to make a difference in that aspect?
Yeah. How many of you know a visual artist or have ever purchased? I mean, we have so many patrons and supporters, so many people who are engaged with artists, and I think that generations and patronism in the for blockchain, what blockchain allows us to do, that patrons basically give when there's some. We have a platform where people can donate to artists, the empowerment of the art community, and I think that it needs control and it needs the ability to have its own outside influence controlling or trying to have the ability to look into the blockchain They can see organizations or art groups, nonprofits. If you have a group of artists who are creating, you're at Burning Man and you want to create a beautiful piece all together. What we're also seeing in the blockchain space is the tokenization of assets. Really, artwork is something that's extremely valuable for not only people to thrive financially, but also artists. A young aspiring artist who has a great painting, and this hundreds and hundreds of people on Instagram, Facebook, on allpublicart.com. Artists can have a thriving work of art that can. Blockchain is just opening so many amazing doors for people like I'm very excited. Yeah.
Thank you, Graham. Ryan, I want to ask you one last question before we do questions, but Ryan, the potential, stepping back, for blockchain to really enhance solutions to social problems.
I think a lot of the panel have touched on that, and you just did right now. Being able to tokenize assets. People, I'm working with an organization called Mama Hope, and like for example, they'll build a well, they'll build a small community, but they're creating assets there. And what they tokenize all of those assets so that the people that build it can actually have a real record of ownership over it. I think democratizing access to money and basically having open source money and democratizing, allowing people to truly own the things that they have. Just like you don't really. Having that has the potential to make you rich. Because, look at how rich we are, in this country. The world cannot also be, wealthy as well. They should be able to.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we've got a few minutes left. Is there anybody who can help us with microphones? It looks like we got a microphone guy there.
I've been in the blockchain a long time. I actually worked with Ethereum founders. They're working on something with Small Planet. I started FoundUps when I asked myself, is the startup broken? And if so, how would I fix it? Simple question. The whole 99% of startups broken. I take basically sharing that reality back in 2010. The question is this, is the purpose of the blockchain, commercial good. Okay, so I'm really respectful on what you're doing. I don't believe in ICOs, and that's why I've not done an ICO with FoundUps, because I don't believe in printing. I think it's all bullshit, okay, personally, all right? The underlying thing is to transform us from a broken economic model built on CAGR. Anyone know what CAGR?
Compound annual growth rate, right?
Do you know when was CAGR invented or created? Why CAGR was invented? Well, my point is this, all right? The question is how do we move, thank you, move from an inherently broken, that treats our planet as an infinite object, and as a finite project, that treats valuation not for ROI, which CAGR is, to proof of the planet, its living systems and ecosystem. And how do we bring the next 5 years on the blockchain without all this hype?
Great question. Ryan, do you want to take a first crack at that?
Long intro.
I don't see why. Look, you're able to profitably sell sugar. You are theoretically not able to profitably, cure a company or help people in the world. And I think those human values that you're talking about and tie them through token economics is those kind of results that you want to achieve to an economic output, because it increases that thing, makes it happen. I think you want to.
I was just going to say the share in profits and quarterly results, but what's the human impact? The driving mechanism for successful companies 7 to 10 years from now. Report on those accurately, and I think the consumers here will start to, as well as the social impact investing, will double down and invest in companies taking care of the planet and the humans involved. So I think we're all believers.
Fantastic. Mark, did you want to add something?
So we are enabling innovation in the emergency space to respond to emergencies in our system. Right now, you can't go to 911. Yeah, how about EMTs on motorcycles? Like, there's just nowhere to plug in. We're going to give this all over the world. And because we're using a token, hopefully, if all goes well, the people that actually crack the best startup in Silicon Valley, except they'll be somewhere else in the developing world. That's our hope.
Yeah. Fantastic. Let's give these guys a big. Thank you, guys.